My mother slammed the fridge door so hard the magnets fell off. Then she clicked a small silver lock onto the handle and said, "If you can't contribute, Zara, you don't deserve to eat." My father didn't flinch. My older brother laughed under his breath, like it was a comedy show. That's when you learn what your family really thinks of you. My name is Serafina Vale, and at 20 years old, my life shrank to the size of a locked refrigerator door. I was studying full-time, working 2 exhausting part-time shifts, barely keeping myself upright, but they only saw what I couldn't provide, not what I was surviving through. I stood there numb, the hunger twisting inside me, and told myself not to cry. "It's just a bad day," I whispered. "They're stressed. It'll pass." But the next morning proved me wrong. A sheet of paper was taped to my bedroom door. "Starting next month, rent for this room, $400. No payment equals you move out." My own room. The same room with glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling at 11. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the first spark of something dangerous. A truth forming like a storm inside me. They weren't my family anymore, just people who wanted to profit off me. But that wasn't even the worst part. That came when I heard what they planned to do next. I wish I could say this cruelty came out of nowhere, but it didn't. My family had always treated love like a currency, one I apparently couldn't afford. My mother, Helena, worshipped my brother, Blake, as if he were carved from gold. He failed classes, wasted money, partied until dawn, yet she called him my brilliant boy. I got straight A's and worked myself sick, but I was too sensitive, too quiet, too expensive. My father, Jonah, only spoke when he wanted something: my laptop, my student loan refund, even my birthday money once. He'd say, "Family shares everything, Serafina." But the sharing only ever went one direction. By the time I was 20, the pressure in that house felt like walking across cracked ice. One wrong step, and I'd fall through. They monitored how long I showered, counted the food I ate, even accused me of using electricity for too long if I studied late. But after the rent note on my door, something shifted. Suddenly Blake was too busy to work, and they muttered about tight months and extra mouths. Then I heard it, through the thin hallway walls, my mother's voice, sharp and cold. "Once she starts paying, we'll raise it. She'll complain, but she won't leave. She has nowhere else." My father grunted in agreement, and Blake laughed. Laughed. The ice beneath me didn't just crack, it shattered. For the first time, I realized they were counting on my desperation. What they didn't know: desperation, in the right hands, becomes a weapon. After hearing them plot about squeezing money out of me, something inside me snapped, not loudly, but quietly, like a thread breaking under too much weight. That week, everything escalated. My mother started doing food inspections, opening the cupboards dramatically to check how much I'd eaten. My father began switching off the Wi-Fi at night, so I wouldn't waste electricity studying. And Blake? He found a new hobby, standing at my doorway, tapping on the frame, whispering, "Rent's due soon, Sarah. Better start selling stuff." One evening, when I returned from a 10-hour double shift, I found a plastic container on the dining table. Inside it, 2 slices of dry bread. A note beside it read, "Your dinner. Don't touch anything else." My stomach twisted, not from hunger, but humiliation. And anger. Deep, cold anger. That same night, they sat in the living room discussing me like a burden they wanted to monetize. "She'll break soon," my mother said confidently. "She's too soft. Once she can't pay, we'll clear the room for Blake's gym equipment." My father chuckled. "She's lucky we kept her this long." Lucky. I walked past them without a word, but my silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was calculation. Because while they were planning to take more from me, they had no idea I'd already discovered something they desperately needed to keep hidden. And once I understood its value, I knew exactly how to use it. The breaking point arrived on a stormy Thursday night, appropriate, considering the chaos brewing inside me. I walked into the kitchen after my shift, soaked from the rain, desperate for warmth. My mother stood there with Blake, whispering urgently, When they noticed me, they went silent, too silent. Then Helena smirked. "We made a family decision," she announced, arms crossed. "Starting tomorrow, your rent is doubling to $800. If you can't pay, you're out by the weekend." My breath caught. "Double? I don't even make that much." "That's not our problem," Blake cut in. "Stop being dramatic. You're 20. You should be grateful we haven't kicked you out already." I stood frozen, the betrayal burning so hot it felt cold. But what happened next was the final, unforgettable blow. My father entered, holding a trash bag full of my belongings, clothes, books, even my blankets, and dumped it onto the living room floor in front of Blake's friends, who were over for game night. One of them snorted. Another whispered, "Damn, bro, kicking out your own sister?" Blake shrugged proudly. My mother laughed. And that was it. The viral moment humiliation I never fully recovered from. But in their arrogance, they made one fatal mistake. When my father dumped my things, a folder slipped out. A folder labeled eviction notices, unpaid mortgage. Suddenly, everything clicked. My family wasn't just cruel. They were desperate. And desperation? It gives me leverage. More leverage than they ever imagined. I spent that night sitting on my cold bedroom floor, surrounded by the trash bag of my belongings, my life reduced to a pile of fabric and shame. For a while, I let myself feel it, the humiliation, the sting, the numbness spreading across my chest. But then the calm arrived. A dangerous, strategic calm. I picked up the folder that had fallen out earlier, eviction notices, bank letters, final warnings. My family wasn't the powerful force they pretended to be. They were months behind on the mortgage. One more missed payment, and the house, their precious pride, would be seized. And suddenly everything made sense. The locked fridge. The cruel rent. The desperation to drain me dry. They didn't hate me. They needed me. They needed my income to survive. A soft, almost involuntary smile spread across my face. Because they forgot something critical. I was the only one in that house with a clean credit history. The only one with a stable job. The only one who could save them. And I was done being their scapegoat. So I spent the next 2 days gathering every document, every notice, every overdue bill. I called my bank. I called a housing advisor. I called someone who understood the legal leverage I now possessed. Then, with calm precision, I made one final call. One call that would tip their entire world upside down. The call that would make them beg. The call went through on a Monday morning, the kind of morning where the air feels heavy, like it knows something is about to break. "Hi, this is Serafina Vale," I said, voice steady. "I'm calling regarding the mortgage on my parents' property." The advisor remembered me from my earlier questions. "Are you still considering intervention?" I let a slow breath out. "No. I'm calling to remove myself entirely from any future responsibility tied to that address. And I have information you'll want to document." I gave them every detail, the unpaid notices, the forged signatures I had spotted on 2 documents, the illegal eviction attempt they had made against me, a dependent tenant. The line went quiet, professionally quiet. "Thank you," the advisor said finally. "We'll proceed accordingly." Proceed accordingly. Such simple words for such catastrophic consequences. Within 48 hours, a formal investigation was launched. Within 72, a repossession warning was issued. And by the end of the week, officers arrived at our doorstep with official paperwork. I watched from the sidewalk as my mother's face drained of color, my father staggered back like someone punched him, and Blake shouted that it had to be a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was the result of their own greed. And the moment Helena's eyes met mine, realizing I was the one who initiated this, was the most powerful silence I'd ever heard. But the real fallout was still coming. The day the bank officials arrived, the entire neighborhood gathered like it was a spectacle. My family, once so proud, so loud, so obsessed with appearances, now stood on the porch, trembling. My mother was the first to break. "Serafina, please," she whispered, grabbing my arm as if clinging to a lifeline. "We didn't mean any of it. You know how families joke. We were stressed. We love you. Of course we love you. Love? The same woman who locked the fridge on me? My father stepped forward next, voice cracking under a weight he'd never shown. If you help us fix this, we'll make it right. No more rent demands. No more rules. We'll change. Blake didn't speak. He just stared, pale and silent, like he finally understood that his mother's favoritism couldn't save him from consequences. But the bank officers were already cataloging the property, taking photographs, issuing deadlines. My mother sank to the steps, hands shaking. My father cursed under his breath, blaming everyone but himself. Blake stormed inside to punch a wall, but fists couldn't fight foreclosure. As they spiraled, something unexpected happened inside me. Not joy. Not triumph. Clarity. For the first time, I saw the truth. Their crisis wasn't my burden. Their downfall wasn't my doing. They had built this collapse with their own hands. And now they were looking at me as the only person who could save them. But they were about to hear my answer. A final answer they never saw coming. My family circled me on the porch, desperation sharpening every breath. My mother's voice cracked. Sarah, sweetheart, please. Just talk to the bank, fix this for us. You're the only one with good credit. My father added, we'll treat you better. We learned our lesson. Blake muttered, yeah, we're family, right? Family. Interesting word choice. I looked at the house, the place where I had starved, cried, swallowed insults, and paid rent for my own childhood room. And I finally felt nothing. I'd talk to the bank, I said softly. Hope flickered in their eyes. And I told them I want no connection to this property ever again. I'm not saving you. My mother's mouth dropped open. But we'll lose everything. I nodded. Yes, you will. And you chose that long before I made any call. The bank officers gave them 30 days to vacate. 30 days to face the consequences they tried to dump onto me. I packed my single suitcase and walked away from that collapsing house without looking back. 2 months later, I received a letter from the bank confirming repossession. Written at the bottom in neat print, your name has been cleared from all liability. My life began that day, not with revenge, but with release. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply this. You walk away. They stay behind. And everything they try to take from you finally takes them instead.